This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Ding, 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 ding. Good morning, Amy Jacobson, Bruce Wolf in for Dan Proft. We're learning more information this morning about the fatal shooting at the Aurora warehouse, the Henry Pratt warehouse, 5 dead. Illinois State Police acknowledging yesterday that the agency wrongly issued a gun license to the shooter. Gary Martin applied for a FOID card January 17th, 2014. He provided his name and birth date for a background check and falsely answered no when asked if he had ever been convicted of a felony. So, criminal search of Martin's history shows there's a series of minor infractions, but the screening process failed to detect a mid-1990s felony conviction for aggravated assault in Mississippi. He apparently stabbed his girlfriend at the time, and he served 5 years in prison. 5 years in prison. And despite that felony conviction, even the owner of the CEO of the company admits that they made a mistake.
I can say that if we have reason to believe somebody's going to be violent, we take precautions. I can only assume that we did not.
And it wasn't until Martin applied for a concealed carry license on March 16th, 2014, and submitted his fingerprints that those prints produced an FBI record that ultimately led police to revoking his FOID card, but nobody went to his house or they did not force him to hand over his weapon.
Now, they did send him like a letter, I guess?
They did.
And he didn't respond to that.
Now,
so
he didn't
people are falling
comply
down
to
all over
that.
the place. I mean, the Illinois State Police.
The Aurora Police.
Yeah.
But yesterday, too, we're learning more about the victims. Clayton Parks of Elgin, 32, a father. Trevor Wenner of DeKalb, Illinois. He was an intern. That was his first day on the job. Can you imagine?
Horrible.
Russell, I just want to say their names because they deserve to be mentioned. Russell Byer of Yorkville, Illinois. Vincent Juarez, is of Oswego. He's married, 3 children, grandfather, just awful as a forklift operator. And Josh Pinkard of Oswego, his a father as well, father of 3. And yesterday his wife came forward with just unbelievable. He texted her after he got shot. So the text came in at 1:24. I love you, and I've been shot at work. And that was the last thing that he said to her.
My husband was wonderful. He was brilliant. He was the best person I've ever met in my life.
With more on this story, we're pleased to have join us Tim Schmidt. He is the president and CEO of United States Concealed Carry Association. Good morning, Mr. Schmidt. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Amy and Bruce. I'm doing great. What a horrible, horrible story that you guys are talking about right now, and it breaks my heart.
I know, but we know what went wrong, but it just leaves you scratching your head how this could happen.
Well, I mean, if you look at the facts, look at the details, I mean, to me it seems obvious that to rely on government to keep us safe is just not realistic. I mean, the first line of defense, it really shouldn't be police. It needs to be the individual, and that's what the USCCA is all about. We teach people to be that first line of defense for their friends and family, because even with the fantastic police response in the Aurora shooting, there was still no police on presence for 4 whole minutes, and obviously a lot can go bad in that short period of time.
Well, do you think in a case like that they should have an armed security guard at their plant?
I think that any private business, any private home needs to have some sort of responsible armed presence, because, guys, I don't care how many background checks you have, the bad guys are always going to slip through the cracks, and the only thing that they understand is violent response. That's the only language that they speak. So, yes, of course it makes sense. Otherwise, I mean, I guarantee you, if there would have been armed guards on the presence of this facility, that there would be a much lesser chance of this guy going through with his crime.
Yeah, and he knew he was getting fired. That's why he brought the weapon, to the meeting. But what do you think, if you get your FOID card revoked, do you think that authorities or the local municipalities, local police should be able to go into your house to make sure you don't have any guns that are in your possession illegally?
Oh, gosh, you guys.
I know, that's
I'm
a
not
hard
from Illinois,
question.
it's a really tough question, but I'm not from Illinois. I'm from Wisconsin, and and I don't even understand why you have to get a FOID card, because quite frankly, the ability to defend yourself is a natural born right. You shouldn't have to ask for permission from the government. And this goes further into how big of a nanny state do we want. And even though you guys have gone to the extent of having these FOID cards, they still don't work. They still don't work, and they never will work.
I have to confess that at heart, I'm a liberal and a bleeding heart, and I have to use my reason to overcome that and support the Second Amendment and understand that if we infantilize society, we're actually asking for more and more of this kind of behavior if we don't take responsibility for ourselves. So, yeah, but at heart, the liberal answer, of course, is when there's a government failure, we should double down and have more government and have more universal background checks, confiscation of weapons, which really is ultimately the end game of the liberals. And of course, you see how inept the government was here. Why should we believe that some kind of a confiscation program isn't going to result in consequences that we never intended?
Yeah, Bruce, you're exactly correct, and I really appreciate that perspective. And you're right. Total confiscation is the end goal of the left side of the politics here. And I mean, guys, there's 300 million guns in the United States right now. 300 million guns. It would be impossible to snap your fingers and make them go away, even if you literally went door to door. It's never going to work. And so
yes, but many of those are muskets from the 18th century that no longer work. No, you always hear the argument. The best one I've ever heard is, let's get rid of the AR-15 because it was used. Was that used in Parkland? I can't even remember.
In Las Vegas.
But it's get rid of the AR-15 because it really doesn't serve a useful purpose for defending yourself. But actually, and the liberals don't believe that there is a deterrent effect because you don't see news stories about, hey, who didn't get robbed today? A guy who had a gun. So you don't see that, and we react to the violence, and then the knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, let's just do something about it. And I have to admit, my impulse is to do something about it, and I have to resist the impulse.
I'll tell you what, the deterrent effect is very powerful, and the most important thing that you can do about it is to get yourself trained, improve your situational awareness, become better prepared, and so you could be that first line of defense. That's what the 300,000 members of my association do, and we save people's lives.
You know what the problem is that, and I have some friends who live in one of the suburbs, and the school board was saying, we've got to get an armed guard, and some of the moms came in and said, we're not those kinds of people. They don't. And you know what? You don't want to have a school. Because when I was growing up, yeah, sure, we hid by the radiators because we had to do these drills thinking that the Russians were going to drop the bomb on us. Okay, I grant you that.
My kids do active shooter drills all the time. They don't even do tornado drills anymore.
Yeah, but you don't want to you don't want to live in a world in which you have to do that. You want to think that you're safe and you don't have to do that. And I mean, the overwhelming odds is that it's not going to happen. But it could, so you do need to protect yourself, and people just don't want to own up to the fact that they have to do that, Tim.
Yeah, you're right, and I call those people like the ostrich with their head in the sand. I mean, sure, you don't want to live in this world, but guess what? You do, and there's nothing wrong with being prepared. It doesn't mean you're paranoid; it just means you're prepared, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it does make sense because if and when it does happen, you'll survive. You'll do the right thing.
All right. Tim Schmidt, thank you so much for joining us, President and CEO of United States Concealed Carry Association, and we'll have you back soon.
Thank you, Tim.
Sounds good. Thanks.